Welcome to the Scream Signal podcast. And we want to say if you're listening to us at night, welcome to primetime, bitch. My name is George, and I'm your host this week. Uh, with me, as always, is Jeremy
Hello, everyone.
and Jeff.
Hey, everybody.
And this is a special episode this week because we also have a special guest with us. We have Joe Sherlock, um, independent filmmaker, has been making indie horror films over the last couple of decades here. If you want to introduce yourself, Joe, we're super excited to have you on.
Hey, all you weirdos. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for asking me to be here. It's actually 30 years. I can't even believe it. But yeah, 30 years last year that I've been making these shot on video crazy movies.
That's insane. That's why I was like, yeah, a couple of decades, because I was trying to think back to like your earliest films that I own that you had made. And I feel like,
Yeah.
late 90s. That's crazy.
I always count Dimension of Blood. I started shooting in 1995, so I always start it with that.
That's fantastic. Quite a history there. Yeah. So, yeah, we have Joe on this week. I will go ahead and say it before we even get into fully talking with Joe and kind of discussing his history and the films that Joe makes. I've been a big fan of Joe's for about a decade now. Joe, I actually found your work on eBay. Um, I was
Wow.
looking through cheap horror DVDs and found one that I could tell was obviously shot on video, looked super fun, and looked like exactly my kind of nano budget film. And that was Deadly Premonitions was the first one. So I bought that
Wow,
from you
far
off
out.
eBay, loved it, and then went down the Skullface astronaut rabbit hole after that. So
Yeah, cool, man.
I always say it's always like Christmas because a couple of times a year there'll be a new Joe Sherlock movie day. You are quite
Yeah, usually.
prolific at cranking these things out. So,
Well,
yeah.
I've always said I can't stop. It's like, yeah, I've been doing this and I can't seem to stop. So I'll probably just keep doing it for a while.
I don't think anybody's going to complain. Keep them coming.
Yeah. Oh, somebody will complain, but I don't care about that.
It's always somebody.
Yeah, have you been on the internet?
Yeah.
There's got to be at least one person out there already that hates us.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. That means that we're doing it right, though. Somebody dislikes you. So, isn't that what they say?
That's true.
The rule of thumb?
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll
they're
get
aware
that.
of you. I mean, I literally the other day collected some quotes from Letterbox and I, grabbed some funny ones and some real ones and like some positive ones and some negative ones and used that as a post because like the negative ones, half the time that'll convince someone to check it out.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the more somebody hates something, the more somebody talks about how bad it is, it makes me want to see it more to see if they're full of shit or not. And most of the time, they usually are.
I was trying to figure out what might be the first movie that I saw. It was like I think it was Bloody Red Lips of Blood.
Oh, wow.
Because I saw that name and I was like, I have to see this.
Good name.
That is a great name.
Excellent.
Good
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, that was a wild movie because I originally made that for Chris Seaver. He,
Oh, yeah.
he did
Chris.
low budget. Yeah, he did low budget pictures for so long, and then at one point he's like, "I'm not doing that anymore. Now I'm Warlock Home Video," and it was this whole thing where he was making new movies, but pretending they were lost gems that he found from the 80s, right?
Ah, okay.
And so he asked a couple other people, including me, like, "Hey, do you want to make something for this label? You just have to shoot it on, VHS and pretend that it's, an old movie from the 80s or 90s." And so that's how I made Bloody Red Lips of Blood. And so I got it done. And then literally, like, I rushed to finish it up one summer because he was going to a convention in August and he wanted to get copies. So I finished it up, sent it to him. He did that convention. And literally that fall, he said, "I'm not doing Warlock Home Video anymore. Welcome the return of low budget pictures." And so, so then he was like, "If you want to do anything with this movie, go ahead." So that's how it happened.
Wow.
Well, it ended in something. It caused something cool to happen. So even though it was a little stumble.
Oh yeah, I mean it was fun. It was like make it intentionally bad, shoot it poorly, and make it dumb, and we had a blast with it. To be honest,
That's awesome. Really cool.
That one is fun. Yeah, I was wondering, Joe, like, how did you originally get into making films? Say 30 some odd years ago. What was it that got you into it and kind of kept you into making films?
Yeah. Well, so the short version is I'll try to keep it short.
Oh, you're fine.
Oh yeah, take
Say
time.
take as much time as you like.
I was born outside of Philadelphia and I grew up in New Jersey. I told you, it's a lot. Yeah, I'll try to make it short. No, but that's important because on a UHF station out of Philadelphia on Saturdays was a creature feature host named Dr. Shock. And so as a kid, I would watch Dr. Shock. He had a double feature, Mad Theater and Horror Theater back to back. So like every Saturday, pretty much, I watched 4 hours of horror movies when I was a little kid in elementary school. I think that had a effect on me. And I was also into comic books and like Greek mythology, like all the monsters in particular, and Kiss and, all kinds of stuff. All these things sort of feed into, what forms you. But I was definitely, into monsters and sci-fi and horror and stuff. So then moved all the way across the country to Oregon after 5th grade. And there was a channel out of Portland, Oregon, Channel 12, that was an independent station, and they showed tons of genre movies. And so I got to see Planet of the Apes and Dark Star and all kinds of old 70s sci-fi movies and stuff like that. So again, was feeding me. And one time they showed a movie called The Alien Factor.
Oh yeah, Don Dohler.
Made by Don Dohler in Baltimore, right? At the time he had sold it to a syndication package, and so it got sold to these independent stations around the country. So it was not too many years after I had moved out here, and so suddenly I'm watching this movie, and it's like, oh my god, this is awesome! It's like monsters everywhere, and yet at the same time, it was like these people just like went out in their backyards and the woods behind their house and like made this movie with homemade monster suits and stuff. And on top of it, it was made in Baltimore, which is not that far. I mean, a lot of this, I don't know where you guys are all at, but I mean, like New Jersey, Delaware, I mean, it's all squished together, right? So
Yeah.
the accents, it's a small thing, but I really have realized over the years that I think this was part of it. The accents and the terrain and the houses and the cars. I mean, it was like, oh, that's where I used to live. That area, that sound, that feel, the look of the colonial buildings, etc., was all like kind of nostalgic, I guess, for, hey, that's where, where I grew up. And it was like, wow, these guys just made the movie. So that really was a point where I thought, I want to do that. And so I made plans to make kind of rip off of Alien Factor with my dad's Super 8 film camera, and that never came to fruition, but I did make a lot of shorts with his camera. And then, and I drew my own comic books and did all kinds of stuff like that. So that was sort of the real inspiration. And then once, VHS camcorders became a thing, I mean, my dad got one, and that was all she wrote. So we're making stuff here and there. And then when I was going to college, I was in a band, and so we made music videos and we made sci-fi shorts and little horror shorts and stuff like that. And then, a few years after college, I got a regular job, but I also started a comic book and game store with my friends. So it was kind of doing all that. And through the game store and comic book store, I met a ton of interesting, creative folks. And so in 95, I was like, I want to make one of these video things, but I want to take it a little more seriously, try to do it, try to do a better job at it, make it a little more serious than just like, let's get together on Saturday. I have a funny idea. Right. And so it was through people I met through the store that I pulled that together, and that was Dimension of Blood. And at the time it was like, I mean, I think I had an AOL address, early days of the internet, but like Draculina magazine was something that I had discovered. And so my first few movies that I made actually were sold out of the back of Draculina magazine on VHS. That was kind of how it started. And I did have a website early on where I was trying to sell homemade VHS tapes and stuff like that. So that's how it started.
That's super cool.
Pretty awesome. So I have to ask, because two of us here, I know at least, are into tabletop RPGs a lot. So when you say comic book and game store, what kind of game are we talking? Video games, or like most time when I think comics and games, I think tabletop games?
Yeah. Oh, it definitely was. Yeah. And this was from 1989. The store was open from 1989 to 1997. So
Nice.
it was comic books, and it was all tabletop role playing games. Vampire the Masquerade was a huge thing for
Oh
us.
yeah.
Yeah.
Of
That was
course,
for us
D&D
too.
and
Yeah.
Traveler, all those things. We also did sports cards for a while. We one of the partners left after a while, and he was the sports card guy, so we kind of phased out of that. But right before the last few years we were around is when Magic the Gathering came into being, and so that, of course, was a big, huge, popular thing. But yeah, it was all RPGs, and the thing was, there were guys in the group. Vampire the Masquerade was a huge hit. In fact, our store ran live action vampire games like a few times a year. We
Awesome.
would rent a place at the fairgrounds or rent another space, and one of my partners and some other guys would write a whole scenario, and it was actually an ongoing thing. It carried from game to game, and that's and a lot of the people that played those things have ended up being in the movies because, hey, if you're going to go do that type of thing, dress up and be a character, you might be inclined to dress up and be a character in a movie.
Oh
Awesome.
yeah, absolutely.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
a lot of crossover there. I think from in our lives, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Very
really
cool.
cool.
Well, I have a
Yeah.
billion questions about film, but I think I'll hold those for now.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's funny you were talking about Don Doler being a big inspiration. I feel like he pops up a lot of times when it comes to filmmakers and who inspired them. You hear Don Doler quite a bit. Fun fact, I
Yeah.
think J.J. Abrams actually did the music for Alien Factor, if I'm not mistaken.
He did music for Night Beast. Yeah.
Night
Oh
Beast!
wow.
That's what I'm thinking of. That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. I remember that he
Yeah.
and Doler had some ties at one point. That's really cool.
Yeah. And it's wild. I was doing a zine for a while, Dr. Squid zine, and I interviewed Don by mail because this was like, in ancient times. But I literally wrote him a letter, and he wrote answers back and sent it back to me. And then later we got on email and stuff. But I didn't talk to him a ton, but it was great because I did talk to him a few times, and just via email. But he was always super nice and super willing to answer any questions. And that's what I've heard. When you say other people have mentioned him, I've seen interviews with other filmmakers talked about him and, corresponding with him or writing for the magazine or whatever. And he always just gets described as like, oh, he was always supportive. He always was willing to answer any question to tell you how he did something or whatever. And I found that to be true too. So I even beyond the fact that the Alien Factor movie, because of what it was and when I saw it and where it was made and everything, was really inspirational to me. When I later got to talk to him, he was inspirational to me. Just like, yeah, I need to be that guy. I need to be like supportive of other people. When people write to me and just ask me questions about stuff, I try really hard to answer them, completely. And like, why not? Right? I mean,
Yeah.
I've had, I did a presentation at a convention years ago called DIY Filmmaking, and I made like a handout, like a 4-page PDF handout with just sort of a brain dump of here's all the sort of tips and tricks that I can think of that you can apply. And I've like forwarded that PDF to people every year. I send it to 5 or 10 people who reach out and like, hey, do you have any advice for me on what to do? And it's like, yeah, here, look at this, and ask me any questions you want.
That's super
Really
cool.
cool.
I mean, you've always been very, very, very in touch with the fans, I feel like, with your fans of your movies. I mean, that's how you and I got connected was I watched some of your
Sure.
movies and I was like, hey, I'm on the same wavelength as this guy. Well, send a friend request. Why not? And you've been awesome ever since. And I know like Joseph Vogley, it's kind of the
Yeah.
same thing, right? He saw some of your films and was like, oh, I really like these. And now he's making movies with you, which is great.
Oh, I know.
That's
That was
awesome.
totally cool.
So yeah, once again, we're really happy to have you on the show, Joe. I know that
Thanks, man.
Jeremy was saying we all have a ton of questions, and I'm sure we'll circle back around to it a little bit later in the episode here.
All good.
All right, so a little bit of a transition. Last week we started off our new series where we are going back and we are rewatching Nightmare on Elm Street from the very beginning. We're doing two the films per episode. Last week we did the original Nightmare on Elm Street and Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. This week we are doing arguably the biggest and probably the best of the series. with Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, The Dream Warriors, and Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, The Dream Master. So, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, Dream Warriors. This comes out in 1987. Directed by the great Chuck Russell, who just recently passed away. We covered, exactly, very much RIP. We also covered his remake of The Blob a few weeks ago as well, which we're all big fans of. That is a fantastic movie, but I would say that we're probably all super big fans of The Dream Warriors as well. This one takes place kind of in a mental care facility. Centers around a group of teens that are all having terrible nightmares and have been kind of put under protection by this mental facility because of these dreams. And Nancy is actually trying to start a new program at this mental facility to help out these teenagers. She soon finds that one of the girls who is having the dreams is able to bring others into her dreams, at which point Nancy and the teens craft up a plan to take on Freddy before he can get to them. So that's kind of the quick synopsis there for Dream Warriors. What's everybody's thoughts on this one? How did everybody feel about it?
Well, I would say without a doubt that Dream Warriors is my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movie. I think it's a good argument to be made that the original is the best movie in the series, but Dream Warriors is definitely my favorite, and I think it has this kind of magical property. I think that's something that you're always looking for when you get a sequel to a slasher film, is that you want it to be true to the original material, but you also want it to expand things in a I guess in a like intuitive and like in a way that feels right, and not like you're moving in like a really weird direction with it or something. And I think this was the perfect way to bring these kids in that have their own sort of like abilities within the dream world and exploring that. And it also gave Freddy a lot more fodder to deal with, as he's going through and taking care of these kids. What do you think, Jeremy?
I've said before on this show that when I was a kid and I was watching a lot of slasher movies, Freddy was probably one that I watched less than a lot of others. I liked Freddy, but it wasn't like Jason to me, where I watched Jason all the time. But of the Freddy movies, this was always the one I did watch the most, and I still think it's my favorite. It's such a great movie. It's got a fantastic cast from like Patricia Arquette, Lawrence Fishburne before he was Lawrence, when he was
Larry
Larry.
Fishburne.
Yeah. So you got a lot of great people in here. Heather Langenkamp returns in this one. And it's fun from start to finish. This is probably the first movie I think where we see Freddy's powers really start to escalate from that first movie as well. So you start to see Freddy doing a lot of over the top kills that really weren't there in the previous movies. So this was the one that really hooked me as a child, and I think still has a really special place in my heart, at least as far as this franchise goes.
You forgot to mention Craig Wasson, or Wasson, however you say his name.
Craig Wasson,
yeah.
Because you gotta mention him because Body Double.
Body Double and Ghost Story. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was always great too. Super good actor. He just I don't know whatever happened to him. I probably gonna have to check on what he's been doing. Yeah.
Well, I'll date myself. I saw Nightmare on Elm Street 3 as a double feature in the theater when it came out with Phantasm 2.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that would have been a great double feature.
Yeah, which was super awesome. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it was great. But I'll always remember that double feature was fantastic. But I dug it too. I think it's interesting because just what you said, that they, how do you keep doing these sequels, and you have to still feel like it's part of the series but add something new. And I thought, that premise was a really great way to do it.
Yeah, this one. So this is one of those movies that if somebody were to ask me, my thoughts about it, I'm always going to say, yeah, it's my favorite in the series. But then when I sit down and watch it, I realize that I like it a whole lot more than just my favorite in the series. It's really damn good. Especially, I know we were talking, Jeff and Jeremy and I were talking about this offline while we were all going through and doing a rewatch. But the puppet scene with the veins is Such a
Yeah.
good kill in this
Philip,
movie.
and that is name Philip's kill.
Yeah,
I believe so, yeah.
exactly. It is so unique, so imaginative, and
Yeah.
that's like the first kill in the movie, right? At least at the hospital, the mental facility. Um, yeah, that one
It's
just
also really horrifying. It's a very
Yeah.
horrifying scene.
yeah, and they're all watching it happen, and nobody can stop it. It's that's a
Yeah.
lot. On that same topic, the special effects in this are really solid, and I know a lot of that goes because of Screaming Mad George, right? I know he worked on 4. I believe he worked on 3 as well.
He did. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sadly,
Another
another
RIP. Yeah.
great
God,
Yeah.
that's
human passed.
huge
Yeah,
loss there. Screaming at George is
Yeah.
the man.
he absolutely was. Like Society, dude. Some of the special effects that he came up with.
Yeah,
are
when you look
just
through the crew
insane.
for Dream Warriors, you just realize just how many because I mean I think one of the reasons it's so good is Frank Darabont having the writing credit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because he's like I think it kind of flies under the radar for a lot of people, and I think a lot of people also think of Wes Craven as writing this one, and like I've actually I don't know if I think we've brought this up on the show before, but there's another really great podcast we recommend that's
mhm.
Greatest Movies Never Made or Best Movies Never Made. And they did an episode on the original script for Dream Warriors that Wes Craven had written. And that is a completely different movie. And I
Way
hate to say it, I love Wes
Yeah.
Craven. It would not have been as good as this, not even close.
No.
So I'm very glad they went with the Frank Darabont, Chuck Russell script on this. I think that they really, I don't know what it is that they had. I don't know if Craven maybe just really didn't have his heart in it, which I think is probably the case.
Yeah.
But yeah, what they came up with is iconic. I think a lot of what we think of when we think of Freddy comes from this movie.
Yeah, I mean, based on what was in that original Wes Craven script, which I know parts of it still exist here in Dream Warriors, but this
Yeah,
original
there's stuff.
had a Mean Street like a mile wide. I have a feeling that he was just like done with the whole idea, didn't want to do Freddy again. And he's like, here's, a script where nobody will ever like Freddy. Like, there's
Yeah.
no way.
I don't want to get too far in the weeds on it, but yeah, there is a kill in that script. I think it's the Kincaid kill, where Kincaid's like trying to jump from like one dream scene to the next, and Freddy kind of stops him like mid leap, so he's kind of halfway between two scenes with his like rear end in the Freddy side and his like other half in the side with his friends. And I guess Freddy sticks his hand up his ass and out of his mouth with this like claw,
Yeah.
and I was like, that's just a whole different type of vibe. It's
Yeah,
just a whole different type of vibe.
Yeah. Kincaid was annoying, but I don't think he deserved that.
No, yeah, he was definitely annoying. It's you always forget that character when you go back and watch, and you're like, this guy didn't really. There really wasn't much of a character. It was just I'm mad about stuff.
Yeah. He was just,
Yeah,
he
pretty much.
was overreacting. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, like I think this one has some of the, just some of the best. I mean, pretty much every kill is great. Even the one like I think the actual kill for the wizard kid, the actual kill itself is kind of lame, but
Yeah.
the circumstances of which it happens are really great. Like the whole, I'm a wizard master and doing all this magic, and suddenly Freddy's just kind of like, I don't believe magic kid, and like just takes him out. It's like really funny.
Yeah.
It
It's
is
also
great.
kind of weird because Freddy isn't Freddy magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is weird to say I don't believe in magic when you're a magical dream demon.
That's okay though. Just don't think about it too hard. Just move on to the next thing. Yeah, and you brought up Patricia Arquette, who I was probably so young at the time I was watching Dream Warriors, I hadn't yet decided I had a massive crush on her. But then, much later when I was watching Tales from the Crypt and the Four-Sided Triangle episode, then I was like, oh, Patricia and True Romance. Yeah, I mean she's like a smoking hot. in both of
True
those.
Romance was definitely it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's great here. I know we'll talk.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
going to say
Yeah.
it's a great performance. I mean, you mentioned Craig earlier. I think them and having Nancy back. I just thought they were. I don't know. They really seemed to do great stuff. Which I mentioned Kincaid is sort of. I think some of the characters were written pretty thin, right?
Sure.
But I think
sure.
I think the main players really did well with it. Which you add to that like the huge atmosphere all the smoke and the lighting and the
Mhm.
just the effects and everything. It's just for those nightmares, just made it really immersive. And just really, looking back, I don't know the last time I watched it. I mean, it's been a while, and just really impressive still to this day.
And that says
Oh
a
yeah,
lot.
absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the ones that really holds up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm really glad
And
that
Robert Englund's kind of getting crazy in this one too. Like it's really, like I said, this is when he really starts to develop that sense of humor that we would come to be a trademark for anything.
It was interesting watching. I don't want to jump ahead, but watching 3 and then watching 4 the next night
right. Big
to see that progression to the the catchphrase, the funny catchphrase, and the sort of set piece kills was amped up for part 4. But you can watching it back, you can see 3 was sort of setting that up, and then you could see what they leaned into the next when they got ready to do the next one.
Definitely. I believe, I don't know if you guys could confirm this. I think I remember reading this, that the "Welcome to Primetime" bitch was ad-libbed. I think that
think it
Robert
was.
Englund just said that, and man, it's how great, like
Right.
how it's, what a great, that's the moment when you're like, yeah, I couldn't have written anything as good as that. Let's go with it.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's a legendary ad lib. If he did make that up on the spot, that's really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
I guarantee you
funny
that
'cause there-
is the scene.
Oh, go
that,
ahead,
like,
Jeremy. What were you
everybody
saying?
thinks of.
Oh, hang on, George. What were you saying, Jeremy?
I was gonna say there is like when we talk about this being the funnier one, there's some weird tonal moments in this that aren't like because it is kind of all over the place. There's the weird moment when she sees the little girl like in the boiler room or whatever, and the little girl's like, "This is where he takes us." I'm like, "Well, this is fucking dark in the middle
Yeah.
of this like otherwise kind of funny movie."
Right.
So it does have like still have some some moments that are like really dark, that go back to like we've talked about before. The Freddy being a child killer does make it
Sure.
like if they went on and on about that all the time, it would make it hard to pull for him and like be a fan kind
Like
of.
the remake.
Yeah, like the remake. But this one does touch on that in a few moments that are surprisingly darker than the rest of the film. And I guess I had just forgot those because I guess they're less memorable to me than the funny parts.
You probably just didn't want to remember. You didn't want to remember that with your Freddy, because then you got to be like, oh man, Freddy's a
Yeah.
kind of dude.
I don't really like to remember the little girl be like, "This is where he took us." It's just like,
Oh
ugh,
no.
well, that's a downer.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what were you saying, George?
I don't think it was anything of any importance. I've already forgotten.
Oh,
what
sorry.
it was.
Sorry.
No,
about
no,
that.
no. You're good. You're good.
Mhm.
Once again, I don't think it was anything crazy important. But yeah.
All
So
right,
that
well,
is.
what's everybody before we move on? What's everybody's favorite kill in Dream Wars? You go, Joe, if you want to go first.
Well, I don't know. The puppeteering thing was quite
Yeah.
striking. I mean, it was visceral and it makes you cringe, and
Mhm.
because it looks so painful. And that shot where the one point they show Freddy like in the sky as the puppeteer, above the building.
Mhm.
I think that was like, wow, this is really like, he is the dream. He's controlling everything, and like
Mhm.
literally and metaphorically or whatever. But just it's a great shot, and so yeah, I guess that was probably my favorite kill.
Awesome. Yeah.
That shot, that shot was
That
part
sh-
of it.
yeah. The whole
Yeah.
thing, even just trying to think out how they did all the special effects there. I'd love to see the filming of that, just to kind of get an idea of what they did.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite in this movie as well. In fact, when I think about kills in the Nightmare on Elm Street series, that is always the first one that comes to my mind. Is
Mhm.
just the puppeteering. It always will be. I think.
Yeah, I think like we were talking about before. I think technically, if you were gonna force me to say, I'd say the Tina death is the most iconic in all of the Nightmare movies. But yeah, this might be my favorite. It's just such a dark and visceral thing. What do you think, George? You got a different opinion? We all locked in on the puppeteering.
Oh, it's definitely the puppeteering. And you asked me what it was. I was saying a little bit before. I remember now.
Uh-huh.
I think most people, if you ask them about this movie, it's like, well, what do you remember about it? What scene? It's always going to be the TV scene. But no, I feel
Yeah,
like
that's a big one.
the puppeteering scene is that's so good. Yeah, and to use that
You
so
know,
early on in the movie, it sets up the whole feel of the movie. Yeah.
I think that the other thing I think about a lot when I think about this movie too is I don't think about the kill so much with now I'm trying to remember her character's name, the like punk chick.
Oh, Taryn.
Is that Jennifer? Oh, yeah.
Jennifer Rubin.
Yeah, Jennifer Rubin. Taryn, that's right. Like I remember every time I think of this movie, I think of her like when she like first imagines herself as like the badass punk chick.
With the
Because I just
switchblade.
thought she looked so fucking cool when
Yeah.
I was a kid, you know, and I was like, oh man, that's awesome. So I think that comes to my mind a lot too, even though it's not really her kills. It's good. It's just not really what I think about. Really, all the kills are good. I can't think of any of them I'm mad about.
You know,
No.
speaking about the TV kill, I think the kill itself was so over the top and ridiculous, you know, with the arms coming out and the tagline and everything. But right after that, it cuts to like whatever later that night, and it's just the burned out TV and her body's hanging out of it.
Just hanging.
And then
yeah.
the three other kids are sort of walking around like, oh no, this is terrible. I'm like, Jesus Christ, that was haunting. You know,
Yeah.
just like this burned out scorch on the wall and the body's still just hanging out of the TV. Like that was dark.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
is definitely an image that gets seared in there where you're like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Because I want to know how they think she did that herself.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Because you're like, what? Like, it's
She's
just
just
definitely
really good at jumping.
Yeah, jumped into the TV.
So I was looking at this, by the way, online, just reading briefly about this.
Mhm.
And before they wrote the script for Dream that became Dream Warriors, apparently, Robert Englund and John Saxon wrote a different script originally that was a prequel that was supposed to be the third movie that was about how Freddy was actually set up for the murders by Charles Manson and the Manson family.
What?
Interesting.
Tarantino
when they-
before Tarantino.
Yeah, when they when you're watching the remake, I thought that was the angle they were going to go on, was that Freddy wasn't really the murderer, or wasn't, you know, hadn't done this, and that he'd been set up, and that was kind of the reason why he was doing the murders and stuff, which would be an interesting angle, because, you know, like we've always
Yeah.
kind of had you know, the dream, the always a bad guy like Freddy, but it would make sense if he had been, you know, unjustly killed to come back as this vengeful dream ghost thing. But yeah, no, they just went really hard in the kitty stuff in that one, which was really, really rough.
Really weird.
That's why there's no sequels to that one.
Right.
One of
I
those.
really had hoped when we went back to watch that one that it was going to be one I'd watch again and be like, oh, you know, it was better than I remember it being, but not really.
Nah. So,
All
Dream
right, yeah.
Warriors, it sounds like that's
Dream
a recommendation from all of us for part 3.
Oh yeah, 5 stars.
So,
And Dawkins. And
And
Dawkins.
Dawkins, yeah, of
Dawkins,
course.
yeah.
I can't believe we didn't talk about
Yep.
Dawkins.
Hell
Yeah,
yes.
it's true.
I mean, that was
So,
the other
yeah,
thing. That had a pretty good soundtrack. And I, again, having been, you know, in my whatever teens or 20s when this came out, what'd you say, 87?
Yeah.
87.
Right.
Yep.
So I would have been like 20. You know, and I was a total metalhead. So that was a sweet spot. And you know, that the music video, of course, played constantly.
That's what I was
for
thinking. It
Dream
was a music
Warriors.
video with
Yeah.
Freddy in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just looking at the release date and I was like, this came out 10 days before I was born.
Oh, wow.
So Jeremy's the baby of the group. That's
Yeah,
so
February 27th, literally 10 days before I was born. This came out.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like 4.
Yeah.
Or something
Yeah.
like that.
Same.
Funny stuff.
Well, the next year, Freddy was not done. 1988, we get Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, The Dream Master. And this one was directed by Rennie Harlan.
Oh, Rennie Harlan.
Yeah.
Well,
Rennie
let us not
Harlan.
discuss what Rennie Harlan's been up to lately.
Yeah, he's been a real stranger lately, right?
Oh Lord.
Anyway,
I'm gonna forgive him for those movies because he gave us Dream Master. So I'm gonna forgive Mr. Harlan for this.
I don't know if I can forgive those movies. I watched all 3 of those. It was this time of my life is never coming back.
I haven't watched the third one yet. I watched the first 2, and the third one I've been trying to get my my strength up for. I was like,
He made a lot of
Yeah.
stuff I like. It's unfortunate he made those 3 movies recently.
he has made a lot of fun stuff. That's it. Just yeah. So
You never
weird.
know. Maybe he's got a mortgage or an ex-wife he's got to take
Yeah,
care
that's
of. You
my
never know.
thought
Yeah.
is.
I mean,
I really do.
sometimes that
Sometimes
stuff
need
makes
to get a
sense once you
paycheck.
find out stuff.
I also do feel like sometimes you have these directors that they were just, like a decade before killing it. Like they just put out movie after movie, awesome movies, and they kind of vanish for like a decade or so, and they come back and like you said, I think it's more them going, I need to make so I need to cash some checks. So it just kind of feels like they're just kind of going through the motions, like the very very cookie cutter kind of stuff.
I mean, you
Yeah,
gotta get
could be.
paid, and if
I
making
don't.
films
Yeah,
all you've
I don't
ever
really
done.
know.
Oh yeah, you gotta get paid. I mean, I can't begrudge. I mean, I would make just about any. If they came to me tomorrow, I'm like, Jeff, do you want to do the remake of Twilight? I'd be like, yes, I do. I'll do it right now.
Right now, I like money.
Yeah.
One thing I will say about Rennie Harlan, though, if it wasn't for Rennie Harlan, we wouldn't have Kane Hodder as Jason, because he worked on Harlan's first movie, Prison, and Harlan, I guess, put in a good word with the studio. I know that he was working with New Line for Nightmare, but yeah, he's apparently the one who got Kane Hodder the Jason gig, which is pretty cool.
Well, that's pretty
Well,
cool.
thank you, sir.
Right? So,
I also
1988.
forgot he had done Long Kiss Goodnight too. Yeah, he's done a lot of cool stuff.
Wait.
Yeah.
A lot of good stuff.
Oh,
honestly.
yeah. I forgot he directed that. I always think about Shane Black, but yeah, Shane Black only wrote that one, right?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, I believe that's right. Yeah.
Well, 1988, we have Dream Master. Once again, Freddy is back. He wants to try to basically get his hands on a character that we have not seen before named Alice. She's friends with Kristen and Kincaid, some of the other survivors from part 3. And basically, he is using the dreams once again to get to Alice because Alice has the power to fight him. She is the keeper of a good portal, whereas he's the keeper of an evil portal within dreams. It's touched on in the movie, barely explained. But
Well, it's because Kirsten dies and passes the power to Alice,
Alice.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that is part 4, a quick synopsis of it here. This one's an interesting one, especially coming from part 3, which is so good. This one's a lot of fun. It is very, very entertaining. But this one feels to me like a music video more than a movie, if that makes sense, just in the way that a lot of it's shot. It's very, very slick, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I hadn't paid attention to the fact that it was only a year later. And think about how Hollywood works. I mean, that's an amazing feat to get a movie with that many effects and everything in it done and out. And which again which only makes me think that, they were like, Jesus, this is making tons of money. We got to make another one really fast. And
Exactly.
and so, I think it was, again, watching 3 and then watching 4 the next night, for me anyways, it was like, okay, clearly they were like, we're going to up our game in terms of the murder set pieces.
Right.
And like, here's a big elaborate thing. We're going to, bring this in, build this thing, blah, blah, blah. Everything was bigger and more elaborate, but I don't know that the story was necessarily, it seemed a little, I don't know, disjointed, I suppose. But let's just take a moment to talk about how, this is always fascinating with Friday the 13th. Like, okay, they killed him. How do they bring him back for the next one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Let's talk about how they brought him back. Because
dog piss.
Yes,
Dog piss.
it's like
Flaming
dog piss. Like, was the pee on fire coming out of the dog, or did the pee get set on fire because he was peeing on the bones? I just laughed out loud when I saw that. I'm like, wow, okay, well, now he's back. I guess you got to figure out some way to bring him back, but that seemed rather ridiculous.
It's funny you say that because I am pretty positive I had the memory on rewatching this that this was the first Nightmare on Elm Street I actually saw, because I believe I was probably about 5 or 6 when this came out.
Yep.
And I think I probably got it on VHS. Probably not the year it came out, probably like 89. But I remember that scene so well. I think that was the only thing I remembered in the movie as a kid. I was like, that dog like peed fire, and then Freddy came out of it. Like, what the hell? In this like junkyard.
I mean, the skin growing back on Freddy's bones, that was all great. But the fiery pee, I was just like,
I kind of like it because it's so weird and ballsy. Like, you have to have nuts to go to some, like, the guys at New Line and be like, all right, we're going to bring Freddy back. How we're doing it? Flaming dog piss. And they're like, excuse me?
All right.
They're just like doing lines off the table. We're like,
hell yeah.
They're probably all mind blown on coke. They're like, sounds great, dude.
To be fair, Like you said, this came out a year later. There was not a lot of script review happening. This shit had to be
No, there wasn't.
fast tracked.
It's being written on the day. Yeah.
That's probably why it is very basic. Just kind of has a Freddy shows back up. He's killing kids. You don't worry about it, and then they fight back at it, sort of.
I assume that's also why Patricia Arquette's not back, because they probably were not willing to wait for
Yeah,
anyone's schedules to line
she
up
was
here.
already
Sure.
working on something else. I think she wanted to come back, but she had already been scripted to do, or was already on another project. I can't remember what that is at the moment, but
Yeah,
I
and
do
clearly
know.
they weren't waiting.
No.
And they just amped everything up. I mean, things are bigger,
Yeah.
but also like I noticed the soundtrack is,
The soundtrack's so good.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few Dawkins songs and I think a couple other songs on the on part 3, but then part 4 is like, oh, they clearly like populated a whole soundtrack's worth of rock songs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then of course the big video that got released was Vinnie Vincent Invasion, which was not as good as the Dawkins one, but they clearly were like, all right, we need to have the song we can use for the video and put Freddie in it, and then let's get a bunch of these songs in here so we can have a ancillary revenue from selling the soundtrack album.
Yeah, I was gonna say they really got their money's worth out of that Dramarama song.
Oh
That's
yeah,
one-
dude. That's like one of my favorite songs of all time.
That
And
song
so
is so good, but yeah.
yeah, it's a really, really good song. So and I always think about it from this movie for sure because I
Me too.
love it so much. Yeah, so I
Yeah.
don't know. What's everybody's thoughts on Dream Master? Anyone wants to kick in?
I mean, I like this movie a lot. I don't like it as much as Dream Warriors. I don't think it's as good, but it's still one of the two that I probably go back and watch the most, because I think this kind of duology of films here in the middle of this series is the high point for the series, in my opinion.
Yeah,
It's at least of fun, like just rewatchable moments, quotable moments. These two really stand out as like two that go together, because they are directly back to back. It is a direct sequel, unlike a lot of slasher
Exactly.
films are.
Yeah, basically this one and the next one also like all just right into each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
The
Dream
next
Giant,
one we will talk about eventually, but it is definitely a huge departure in tone, I feel like, from these two somewhat. So these two are the ones that really stand out to me as the two I go back to that I really, really love. Once again, you have Screaming Mad George's effects, which I think are just fucking incredible, especially thinking that he pulled this off in a year, and was able to do this. It looks amazing throughout. And
That's wild because I think he did this and then he did the Society. I think Society's next year.
Wow.
Yeah.
So wild career like there. Super talented, and every kill in this one is just over the top. Well, most of them. There's some where like throw a glove into somebody's stomach.
Yeah, the build up for that's pretty good, but yeah,
The build-up's
actual
good.
kill is kind of.
But yeah, the Roach Motel kill.
That's what I was going to
always
mention.
Yeah, all timer.
So
That's
good.
that's
Yep.
amazing effect. So gross, and then like the Freddy like with the eating like souls off of pizza and
the
stuff.
pizza.
This movie is full of gross shit that just like is so well done. It's a fantastic movie. I love it.
And something I wanted to mention while we're talking about weird stuff in the movie. There's a scene in it where they have this kind of like wall of souls kind of thing with like naked bodies moving in it, and you see
It's a
like
giant
naked
torso.
Yeah, you see this like
Yeah.
naked lady's like body. It's Linnea Quigley.
I was going to say that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Pretty
cool
much,
to like to see that. Like I recognize those tits.
Because she was going out with Steve Johnson at the time, I believe. Is how
that's
she
cool.
got
I
in.
didn't know that. That's cool.
Got
I didn't know that
put in
either.
there because she was around.
Nice.
Yeah, but talk about crazy like that meatball pizza. I mean, just complete on the Roach Motel, completely wacky, right? I think you said fun is a great word for it, because it really was. It was just, this is for fun horror.
Yeah, which is why I watch these two the most, because I think they are
Mhm.
just fun. Like you're not sitting there like I don't finish watching this movie and think about my life and reevaluate my choices or anything. It's not making me like question myself, but I'm just like at the end of it, I'm like, fuck yeah, that was great. So I love this movie.
Sometimes you might go, if I had watched Dream Master like 3 less times, I might be an investment banker. I'm not
Probably
sure.
not gonna happen.
No, yeah, I doubt it. What do you think, George? What's your take?
I like this one a lot, and I'll be completely honest. This one and the Dream Child blend together in my brain for some reason.
Yeah, well, they share so much, like characters and
The characters and
vibes.
exactly. So like I'm watching this, I'm going, wait, when does he get like attached to the motorcycle? That's gonna happen soon. That's from the pizza one. No, it's not. I get them mixed up all the time. But no, this one is a blast. I mean, this one moves. There's no real downtime in it. The special effects are phenomenal, especially like Jeremy and Joe were saying, the Roach Motel scene is
Yeah.
insane. That is such a good kill. And watching this on that new 4K restoration, like the effects still hold up. They're that good that they hold up under scrutiny in the best possible fidelity. It's crazy. Yeah, this one's just a blast from beginning to end.
I think so. Dream Master. It's actually it's not the one that I saw though. It's probably the one I saw first. I think I probably saw Dream Child the most because I had that on VHS in the early '90s and probably watched it a whole lot with my friends. But Dream Master has a special place. Dream Master has this interesting quality for people like me and George and Jeremy, mostly too. For people our age, where we were born in the '80s but grew up mostly in like the early '90s. This movie really straddles that line of like '80s and '90s. Like you can feel the '90s coming in this.
Yeah.
I think, with like the styles and like the music and things were starting to head in that direction. I really like, like we talked about the Roach Motel. I really like. I'm a big fan of that trope where you have a cute girl and you just put glasses on her and suddenly she's a nerd, like the
Oh yeah, the girl with the
girl with
inhaler.
asthma.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the obviously attractive
yeah.
girl.
yeah,
That's
obviously
you know.
extremely attractive woman with like just
Yeah.
some glasses on, but she's a nerd now. I always really like that. I like I will say the only drawback for me is that I don't find Alice as compelling as I did Kirsten in general across the two movies. I don't think she's the best lead. She's fine. Like she's not doing anything wrong. It's just not quite as compelling. I do like Tuesday Night in this for the little bit that she is playing Kirsten.
Yeah, me too.
I'm a fan of hers, so I thought that was cool. Yeah, I mean I think the Roach Motel is probably the best kill in this. I think anything else really tops that one because if this I'm trying to remember as I get these confused. The feeding thing, is that this one or Dream Child?
That's Dream Child.
Okay. Yeah, I always get that one. I can't remember if it was in this one or the next one.
Yeah, one thing.
But yeah, like you said, they blend together really bad.
Oh, they do. They're very. Yeah, they in my brain they're similar. We'll see on the rewatch. But one thing I will say about Alice is I do like the difference in Alice between the beginning and the end. Like if you watch this in a different perspective, this is a revenge movie. Right?
Yeah.
Like you even get the training montage for her to go and take down
Yeah.
Freddy, like to avenge her friends. And that's she goes from being quiet and, oh, I imagined I said this, I wish I had, blah 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 blah, to just being like a full-on badass by the end of the movie, which is super fun.
I like how you. Oh, go ahead, Jeremy. Sorry.
I do like how you get those moments every time one of her friends dies. She changes a little bit. And I think she does a great job at portraying that.
Mhm.
And sometimes they do things that are like obviously over the top to reinforce that for you, so you recognize what's happening as well, like the "I don't smoke" moment. But I think she herself as an actress just really does do a good job of each time, like changing like small mannerisms and stuff like that. So it really is a cool concept.
I was just going to say that same thing. It was a cool concept.
Yeah, it is a cool concept. And I love that scene in this where her brother like is kind of coming back to her to give her pep talk in the dream. I thought that was really cool. Like you don't see a whole lot of stuff like that. At the funeral. So I thought that was a pretty neat little addition. I definitely think some of these movies, like Dream Warriors, I think you have sometimes you have a harder time selling to me that these kids are like friends outside of this. But in this one I bought it. I bought that they were all like close and hung out and all that, and I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I think Dream Warriors does it through like a forced, like these kids wouldn't necessarily be friends if they weren't in this shared situation.
Exactly.
Where this one they just are genuinely friends.
Yeah, and this was before the era we really got into of like people trying to recapture slasher movies, and they just kind of started doing they just gave you the stereotypes, and they're just very thin stereotype characters just there to die. They kind of these kids are just there to die, but they feel like people like that.
I found it interesting that in part 3, Jennifer Rubin was made up as sort of the tough metal chick with the spikes and everything, and then in this one, when Lisa Wilcox turns into tough Alice, she puts on a whole bunch of spikes.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
spikes.
Because that,
Yeah.
I mean, that was the fashion at the time if you want to look tough, but it still just
Yeah.
was funny seeing it as okay. This is the visual signal that she's a badass. She's putting on spiky jewelry.
I do like how the 80s especially were like, all street gangs are like multi-ethnic, like punks. All
Uh-huh.
of them. Like every like, gang is like covered in leather and spikes and blue hair, and then there's like, members of every like race. It's cool. I'm like, this was a very, like a Rainbow Coalition time for gangs.
Very progressive gangs.
Also, I wish it was like this. That'd be cooler. Like, at least I'd see it, be like, oh man, look at those guys. They look scary.
Well, Breaking 2 Electric Boogaloo was a documentary. Everything was like that.
It's true.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
True.
Sure.
Everybody
don't
got
even-
along together and danced.
Yeah,
That
you
would-
don't
it would
even
be a
need
better
Dead
time.
Kennedy songs in this universe.
Well, we got to get back there. We gotta get back. Maybe Breaking 3. I don't even know what the subtitle would be, but we need
Yeah,
that.
I don't know.
Well, that's the Dream Master. Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4.
Tune in next week for Breaking 3.
Breaking
Yeah.
3 when we have a title. Breaking 3 TBD. There you go. Done. But yeah, this one's a blast. Sounds like we all thoroughly enjoyed it. I know we already talked about a bunch of the kills in the movie, so I have a feeling we all
Yeah, I think we got this one
Went for
pretty
the-
well covered.
for the road strap. I do like the inhaler kill though. That one is a fun one. But yeah. So next episode we'll be covering part 5 and part 6 of Nightmare on Elm Street. But there's 3 and 4. If you've never seen them, definitely check them out. There's some of the more fun movies in the franchise there.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
So, since we have Joe on, we all watched some Joe Sherlock movies this week as well.
Oh,
So, I believe Jeff had seen, Jeff had seen some films before. Jeremy,
Yeah,
I'm not
I'd
sure
seen
if
some.
Jeremy had, but we all watched.
It's hard to say.
Yeah, I was gonna say we all watched Drifter this week and Channel 99 in anticipation of the episode here.
hmm
So,
oh, nice.
So Drifter is from 2014. Takes place in a small town and involves a drifter who ends up at a house known as the Blood House, where mysterious murders have taken place over the years and are continuing to take place. After the drifter's arrival in town, more people go missing. And yeah, there's a little twist by the end of this one. So we have Joe on. What did everybody think about Drifter? Or have any questions about Drifter?
Oh, I thought this one was really cool. I checked this one out. I think I might have actually seen this before I met you, George.
Yeah.
I know where I caught it, but yeah, I checked it out and I thought it was really fun. I liked the kind of a classic setup of like the house with the like a killer like taking people out, but I liked the twist on it, like the it was something different going on than what you expect. I thought that was really fun. I've learned something about myself going back and revisiting this. I really like the whole, like super haunted house in the neighborhood everybody talks about, like the murder house or the blood house or the whatever. I love that trope. So I love whenever that pops up in movies. I just really love that idea because growing up, there was a road near where we grew up in Stokes County. And we're in North Carolina, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. But it was called Payne Road, which is great. Payne, but like people would talk about this place being this like if you go there and you turn your like your car off on the bridge, it won't restart, and these ghosts will come out, so all that kind of stuff. And none of it was true. Like they had this whole elaborate history of murder. None of it had ever happened there. It was all completely made up. But I just have always been fascinated by those kinds of things, and I think they work really well for like a premise for a horror movie. So yeah, I loved that. Thought it was really cool.
Well, I
So-
intentionally.
Oh yeah.
I was just going to say, I intentionally had different characters tell different stories about it because I wanted it to be that type of thing. Like it, that the audience is like, well, which one of these is true? And then, like the realtor's like, well, none of those are true. It's
Right.
like that big kids just tell that to each other on the playground type of thing, so that it was sort of the local urban legend, exactly what you're talking about. And that so much so that like different people, oh, well, you know what I heard is this happened. Oh, well, I heard this happen.
Yeah, I thought it was really, really great. I was definitely a concept that I really appreciate. And I thought you had some of these, like, for, I'm guessing, all like people in your network and, like, more amateur actors, but like some of the performances were really, really good. I think some of the effects were really good, especially for, I'm sure, like, running on a low budget. I liked some of the way you like cut for certain things, so I thought very, very cool. And I'll come out and say it. I'm a fan of naked women, and there were naked women, and that was cool.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody here enjoys that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was gonna say it's like I always talk about the ingredients,
Hmm.
and so like that's an ingredient in a lot of movies. You got your
Mhm.
blood and your naked women and your jump
Yeah.
scares and whatever else are kind of all the ingredients that you throw into the pot to varying degrees depending on what the movie is.
Yeah, and I appreciate your keeping that alive, because I think we all grew up in
Very
a
much so.
time where that was an ingredient in a lot of the movies we grew up with, and
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
fallen out of favor. I think probably because of the availability of like internet porn. You don't need as much salacious stuff in your horror movies necessarily, but I definitely miss that. So I'm glad that you're keeping it alive.
Yeah, famously, Roger Corman basically, when he produced movies, was basically, find me a cool title and put nudity in it, and I'll fund it. I don't really give a shit what else you do, whatever you want. Just get find those two elements for me, and I'll pay for the movie.
And Corman was a legend for a
And he made
reason.
a lot of great shit
Yeah.
came out of that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So
he'll get a poster printed and they're off to the races.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
So that's kind of I think that is important, but I do think there is like a weird thing where Gen Z or Gen Alpha, whoever is the current 18-year-olds now, I don't know. Um, they do seem to have like some aversion to sexuality in film a lot. You see on the internet a lot of people are like, I just hate sex scenes in movies. I don't think they should exist. And it is a weird thing that seems
is
to be
weird.
somewhat looked down upon by the younger generation. It's almost a puritanical thing with the young generation that just seems very strange.
My theory on that is I think like anything, it's cyclical, it goes through cycles.
Mhm.
And I think we kind of had this peak where, it was like building in the 80s, it was building through the 90s, and the 2000s, you got really crazy like sex and gore, and then it crashed. Like, so now, then you kind of almost went all the way to the top, and now it's kind of like curved back down to where, for a while, we're going to be kind of puritanical about stuff. But it'll come back around. It'll come back around.
I think you're right. I was going to use the word pendulum, but it's
Yeah.
the same thing, cyclical. I think
Yeah.
the pendulum swung a particular way, and I think eventually it'll come back. I mean, it's interesting seeing a lot of stuff like that new Camp Miasma movie that's coming out, and just a few things here and there that are coming out that are. I mean, I haven't seen that yet. It opens next week here,
Yeah.
or maybe this week. But yeah, I think it might be swinging back a little bit. But I
Mhm.
also, I don't really know, but I also wonder a lot of times it's driven not necessarily by the audience, but by the distributors, which at
Sure.
this
Yeah.
point is a lot of like tech companies. I mean, it's really gotten to the point where so much of it is not these organizations are not run by people that like love film or are in it for film. They're in it for shareholder value, whatever. And so I think they're perhaps more reactionary to that and playing it more safe than
Mhm.
like being more like, well, this is this is the artist's vision to include that and have a sexual component to it. I don't know if that's a real thing or just imagined, but
I,
I could,
No, I'm
I
sure
don't
it
know,
plays a role. Yeah,
might
I'm
be
sure.
I
part
think
of it.
spot on. Because I think we've seen this across so many industries. As someone who is in the tech world, and as someone who's in the video game world, we see this stuff where computer nerds no longer run tech companies, video game fans no longer run video game companies, and movie fans no longer run movie companies. They
It's
are
only
all
the boosters.
Yeah.
purely like profit driven to the
Mhm.
extreme. So you get everything that's extremely like focus tested and boiled down to the most digestible parts a lot of times. And that means stuff like the sexuality and nudity and stuff gets stripped out if anybody voices any like opposition almost. So I do think it's a concern, and it will swing back probably eventually. There will be backlash against it when stuff stops selling and stuff starts failing. Then it will go back the other direction.
And it's also, I agree with everything you just said, but I also think that at a time when maybe mainstream, quote unquote mainstream or midstream, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I mean, not to toot my own horn, but I mean, I make stuff like this, but there's other guys like on my level making stuff like this, and there's pockets of releases here and there from Neon and some of these companies. I mean, Neon's maybe not a great example; they're getting bigger, but you can seek them out and probably find stuff like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, whether I think you're right, though, it'll cycle back to where maybe it's a little more accepted in bigger movies, and then it'll probably swing back and forth.
Well, we did get to see that Sinners had some sexual components, and I think that's probably the biggest movie I've seen that in a long time. So hopefully that's a indicator that we're coming back to that.
Yeah. But I agree with I agree with you, Jeff, on the whole haunted house thing. I really like that aspect. I like the different stories, the conflicting tales there about the situation. Because, like you said, growing up in Winston-Salem, we did see that with Payne Road. I heard a dozen stories about that in my childhood, about what happened there. The guy stuck dynamite in his mouth, or he killed his whole family, or a girl hung herself from the bridge. So that is cool. And funny personal story recently. Where I'm moving back to North Carolina, currently in the process. Next weekend, I'm moving back to North Carolina from Indianapolis. And my dad was saying that we should move into my uncle's house, and not to get into the details of that, but he had murdered his wife and child in that house.
Oh, Jesus.
And my wife was like, if we lived there, do you think the other kids on the school bus would know about the murder house and would make fun of our child? I was like, Rosa, do you think kids in the neighborhood don't know about the murder house in their neighborhood?
They
yes.
Absolutely,
they know. I was like, we had a house in our street where murders didn't happen that everybody thought was the murder house.
That's wild.
It is funny. It was like, it did make me think about it. I'm like, yeah, the murder house on every street. Like every town has that legend.
Every town had one. Yep.
Yeah. But I liked the movie. I thought the lighting in this movie was cool. There's a lot of choices that I liked in it. So I enjoyed Drifter quite a bit.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, Drifter's a fun one. I think this may have been the second one that I saw after Deadly Premonitions, but it has a Phantasm vibe to it. And I don't remember realizing that the first time around.
Well, I'm so glad you picked up on it. I mean, Phantasm is my favorite horror movie, and I worked a lot of Phantasm-ish bits in, and so not everybody will pick it up. But I mean, to the point where the character names in Drifter are all actor and crew names from Phantasm. Right?
Yeah, I definitely got the Bannister house. So I was like, Bannister, that's nice.
Reggie, the morgue
Reggie
technician.
the coroner.
Yeah,
right.
And then even Richard Johnson. I mean, he looks like he's tall in this movie.
Right, I know.
Half the movie. Yeah, it's great.
And his character's Don. I know. Yeah, and even like Reggie's a coroner. Reggie's a coroner, but he serves you ice cream.
Eating ice cream.
Right. Reggie's the ice cream man.
Yep.
So I mean, there's a bunch of, and I actually have a few lines like in that coroner scene. Don talks about camping, or maybe it's Reggie. Somebody talks about going camping way down by something or other creek. That's a line from Phantasm. And so there's a few lines here and there from Phantasm. And yeah, or it's Morningside Realty. That's a very obvious nod. So there's a bunch of that stuff in there. But I think part of it also was Steve Sessions did the music for that. And I love his stuff. I love his movies. And he did all his own music. And so he wanted to do the music for it. He's like, hey, I'll do the music for it. So I mean, he scored to the movie, which was great, and really, he basically was like Phantasm and The Fog were kind of the two soundtracks that he.
I can see that.
Yeah, I can hear that.
Melded together, and I just freaking loved it. So I think that elevates it a lot too, having that music in there. But the Phantasm thing was definitely intentional.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you picked up on it.
Yeah, watching it years ago, I was like, I don't remember picking up on that at all. And this time I was like, oh, yeah, there's a lot of Phantasm here. I love it.
Yeah.
It's a fun one. And I like the twist at the end of the movie as well, where you kind of see about
what's
3/4
really
of the way through, what's really happening. You see the Drifter with some bodies that he's disposing of, and you're You're like, what the hell is happening? These do not look like normal corpses at all.
Yeah.
And yeah, super, super fun movie.
It is so interesting how I remember the first time I watched this, I thought the Drifter, character, I thought what he was doing was acting drunk, because there would be scenes where it's almost like he was like
Yeah.
burping or throwing up, you know what I mean? And like I was like, okay, so he's just like really, really drunk. And I didn't really think a whole lot about it. And then, of course, the reveal at the end. Spoilers for anybody that doesn't want to know. If you don't want to know the spoiler, skip ahead a little ways. But I remember, like, and what was cool is watching it the second time, going back and watching it. I was picking up on what he was doing there with that performance, right? Like, I thought what I thought it originally, watching it on the rewatch. I'm like, oh, okay, he's telegraphing this this thing, it's controlling him, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the concept was that the creature was, mentally controlling him, but while doing that, it was basically destroying him. And so,
Right.
By the end, he's just like kind of almost a brainless shell and next to useless. And so, at the end of the movie. But yeah, it was great because, as with most movies, you shoot out of sequence. But Bob, the actor who played the Drifter, he and I talked about it, and he worked out a system. And I think we had 8 stages. We worked out a system of like what stage he was through the movie in terms of like his deterioration. And
Yeah.
so he had a script, and he like labeled this as the shoot. It was the shooting schedule. He labeled them on what number he was. And so at various times he'd have to go in the bathroom and like touch up his makeup to make his eyes a little more sunk in, and his cheeks a little more gaunt and a little paler. And then then he'd have to sometimes go back in and like take that off and minimize it because we're shooting out of order. I credit him for that because it was his idea to do that. And I thought that was great because, yeah, on a rewatch, hopefully, like you just experienced, you totally notice that. You're like, okay, now I know what's in the bag that he brings into the house. Oh my gosh, look at that. Okay, now I get, oh, look, he's looking worse. He's looking worse. He's looking worse. And now, he's totally, his brain's totally soup or whatever. That it sort of makes sense on a rewatch. But I thought that was great too. A great detail that was all to Bob's credit on doing that.
It was really great.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you got. Do you want to hear how the movie came to be?
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, what happened was so Richard Johnson owned that house, and he had sold it and moved to a new house. But the people that were going to be moving into his old house weren't going to move in for like 6 months or maybe for like 4 months. And so I had worked with him before in movies, and I shot Blood Creek Woodsman there. If you guys have seen that movie takes place in that house while they were living there. And so he called me and he's like, hey, I just want to let you know, we sold the house. It's going to be vacant till like April. And, so if you want to, what he literally said is he said, if you want to shoot like some murder scene in there, you could have free run of it, till then. And he was just literally thinking like, oh, go like just make up a scenario and shoot some murder scene in this vacant house and then use it in a movie later or something like that.
Yeah.
But my mind just started working like, oh my gosh, wow, what could happen here? And so that was the inspiration. Just the availability of that vacant house was what started my brain working. And then, I came up with this whole concept. And so a couple months later, we shot it and shot all that stuff. The house that Don and Mary end up that they're in, like with the hot tub, and they have dinner there and all that stuff. That was their new house. So like the old house was the blood house, and then their new house was his house. And so anyway, that was the origin. It was like the availability of a location sparked my brain to start working.
I do love her exasperation in the movie. That she keeps getting sidetracked and cock blocked by a bunch of murders at this house that her husband's trying to sell. So good.
Yeah.
Well, if all we need is an empty house, then Jeremy, I think we're going to be shooting at your uncle's house.
Yeah, exactly.
That just sounds like a movie right there. We're shooting at this murder house.
Yeah.
And then we get killed by the ghosts of the murder house.
That's definitely how we all end up dead.
Right.
Oh, and another interesting thing is there's no basement in that house. So the basement was shot in the basement of a realtor's office downtown where Richard at the time worked. He actually was a realtor at the time, and so we shot that in the basement of his office downtown.
That's a great resource to have as an indie filmmaker, as a realtor. So you can be like, hey, what house is empty? Let's go shoot this movie.
Well, you are not wrong. I haven't taken advantage of it too much, but I did a movie called Things 5, and we were going to shoot some stuff on his back patio of this girl like sunbathing, and then she gets attacked. And he was like, there's a house that I'm representing, and we could shoot there, and it's like $1 million house. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, let's go. So like we hadn't planned it till that, like everybody was there. He's like, no, let's not shoot it on the porch. Let's go to this other house. And so we go to this other house, and it's this huge house, got a big ass swimming pool. And so, we just like shot her topless sunbathing by this pool and then getting attacked. And then we drove away before anybody came to look at the house that day.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. It's fantastic. Nice. Well, so that's Drifter. I think we all really like Drifter. I had a blast with it on a rewatch. Still super fun.
Before we go on, since Phantasm was mentioned, Jeff's heard this story before, but I have to tell my favorite Phantasm story in my life.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
So I used to have this Phantasm shirt that I wore a lot because it's also a movie I love. And I was walking around a Total Wine one day just looking for beer that I was going to buy that day. And suddenly, I don't think about what I'm wearing usually. This man walks up and grabs me by the shoulder from behind and says, "You play a good game, boy, but the game is finished." And I was like,
wow,
what the fuck? Like, I turned around expecting somebody to murder me at that moment.
Yeah.
And I looked terrified. The guy looks at me and looks at me like, obviously I'm scared, and looks down and goes, "Phantasm." And I'm like, oh, yeah, Phantasm. That's
Phantasm.
a normal thing to do to somebody when they're wearing a shirt.
You play a good game, boy, but the game is finished.
Wow.
Shit.
Boy.
What a great story.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
I was like,
Well,
who the fuck does that?
I'll tell you my story real quick. I met Don Coscarelli at a convention in 2009 up in Seattle, and I was so excited to meet him. And I wanted to tell him the story of when I first saw Phantasm, which was on the CBS late night movie, or the CBS late movie in like 1981 or something like that. And I had managed to look up online somewhere. There was a listing of all the stuff they had shown, and I found out the actual like date. Okay, that was 1981. But it was one of these things where it was like I was like a freshman in high school probably or something like that. So, and I was alone. I mean, I had the rest of the family was asleep at the other end of the house. I was like by myself at the other end of the house in the dark watching this movie, not really knowing what it was going to be. I mean, I would watch movies on that late night or the late show all the time. And oh my God, it just blew me away, right? So weird and all the surreal stuff and scary and stuff. So, all these years later, I'm going to meet Don Coscarelli. So I'm all excited to tell him that. And so I start telling him, I'm like, oh, the first time I saw it was CBS late movie. And he just like shakes his head and he goes, oh, that was just like so cut up and everything. And my heart just sank because I'm like, oh, crap. This is like a bad memory for him. And it's like my best memory. Like, you don't understand, man. That scared me and I love it. And I become a filmmaker because of it. He was very nice, of course, but it was interesting that, of course, which makes sense now. Like his recollection was, oh yeah, they like cut the hell out of it for TV, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, so that's my little story
That's a good
about
one.
that.
Yeah.
Good. Real good. Yeah.
But the one thing I'll say about Drifter is, over the years, I mean, people ask me sometimes, well, what's your favorite movie you've done? And I mean, Drifter is always there. So usually it's like, well, I like Drifter and blank. And sometimes the blank shuffles depending on what my latest favorite is. But I really like how Drifter turned out. And I always say it's because of the vibe. It's just the feel through the whole thing somehow worked. And I think it's the music and it's the storyline and just, I don't know, it's just that sort of, that there's a mystery, there's something going on and you're not quite sure what it is, that seemed to kind of work. And so anyway, so I'm glad you guys dug it. I mean, I'm glad people are digging it to this day, because I really am happy that turned out well.
Yeah, it is definitely very atmospheric. And like you said, that is, because of the music and the script and the acting.
Right,
Everything just kind of fell into place with that one. It's super good. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then the other movie that we did watch in anticipation was Channel 99 from, what was that, 2021. I should know that. I helped out with that one. Yeah. Channel 99 is kind of an anthology film. It's a series of shorts and some kind of what I'm trying to think of the word here,
Like
but basically
fake promos,
fake promos,
commercials.
exactly, or
Yeah,
news.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. News broadcasts, you name it. And this is a TV channel straight from Joe's mind. That's
Yeah.
Channel 99. You kind of went back, you revisited some earlier stuff that you had done, like Twisted Fates in this one. You
Yeah.
bring back Link Masters, who has been through some of the films as a always as a newscaster. Yeah, this one's a blast too.
It was the inspiration for the concept of Channel 99 was Showtime. We got Showtime at my house when I was in I think like a freshman in high school, and that opened up, you know, a world to me of everything, like international films and, weird ass B movie films and, erotic stuff from Europe and uh, you know, just a huge swath of all kinds of movies. And of course I loved all the, cheesy monster movies and sleazy stuff the best. So yeah, so that was like my and then also I mentioned earlier that Channel 12 that I had seen the Alien Factor on
Mhm.
played a lot of sci-fi stuff and horror stuff. And so it was kind of the remembrance of that feel was what inspired it. In fact, for those who are around, which I guess is not you guys, but like in the mid '80s, like the beginning of Channel 99, when it has like the warning where it's like, this is only intended for viewers and will only be shown after
Yeah.
10 p.m.
Mhm.
That thing is a direct ripoff of what Showtime would have before a movie. If movie was rated R, I basically mimicked what the wording of their thing was, which was like, this is rated R by the motion picture industry's rating system, and it will only be shown by after 10 p.m. We recommend watching it with an adult. And so that was literally like just like that. So I mean, people that were aware of it back then, they'll be like, oh, that was like that thing. But anyway, yeah. So that was the idea. And I have to say real quick, the Twisted Fates. There's a couple things on there that existed already, like the Dinner with Mr. Birch and the
Yeah.
Day at the Park, the zombie short. Those were existing shorts I had made just as like shorts. And then the Twisted Fates, what happened was I had run out of DVD copies of Twisted Fates, and I thought, okay, well, I want to get another run of DVDs made. I thought, well, how can I make this interesting to people? And so I had the concept for Twisted Fates, and I thought, well, maybe I'll shoot that as a short, and I'll just self burn that on a DVD, or maybe just get like, because I think I was getting about 100 copies of stuff at that point. So I thought, well,
Yeah.
maybe I'll get the reprint of the movie, but then I'll also get like just the DVD by itself of the short and just put it in a paper envelope. And then I'll say, hey, I have a reissue of this, and also as a bonus, here's a short. And so that was the concept. But then eventually I just was like, you know what, I'm just going to do a reorder, right? But I still had that script written for Twisted Fates. And so when I decided to do the Channel 99 thing, that was one thing I thought, oh, well, I could do this because now it'll just be a piece of this anthology. So there was that, and then, like I said, the zombie one and the Dinner with Mr. Birch were existing. And actually, the housewarming story was originally made as a segment for Brad Twigg's Frames of Fear 3.
Okay. Yeah, I know Brad.
Yeah.
Which was like, he said he wanted it like set in the 80s, so that's why there's like a big ass camcorder and kind of 80s rock music. But yeah, so that housewarming actually was part of his thing. And at a certain point, he had run that through Sub Rosa, and that deal had expired. And he was like, hey, listen, if you want to do something with this short, you feel free. And I was like, okay, great, I'll put it in this thing I'm working on. So those were kind of his existing things, and then the other parts were ones that I shot specifically for Channel 99.
Awesome.
Yeah, you can definitely see all the monster influence of you growing up with Channel 99. I mean, you've got Mr. Birch, you've got a werewolf, you've got aliens, you name it, it is in Channel 99. I mean, that's even the tagline. Channel 99, we've got it.
We've got it. That's right.
Love it. Yeah, what did everybody think of Channel 99?
Yeah, I thought this was especially really like the concept of anthology film that's sort of based around just a quirky late night TV channel. I think that's such a great framing for all of this. I think we all, we're all of the age. We have really fond memories of like the late night TV stuff. Like I remember,
Oh, yeah.
I've seen so many things on like USA Up All Night or something like that. And what was so great about it is that stuff always was like really late at night. So as a kid, me staying up late to watch it, everything feels kind of like fever dreams. Like all these movies or these commercials, these weird. And I think you really captured that feel, which is something I think was really, really awesome. Like I just remember watching this, man, this is just like, watching some crazy stuff on TV at like 1:00 in the morning, on like a Saturday night or something. So yeah, I think that was a really, really cool framework. And I did really like the short with the like werewolf, like girlfriend, thing. That was really fun. I remember obviously, I'm as a seasoned veteran of like all things horror. I've watched so much horror. I kind of thought I knew what was going on in the beginning, but it didn't really matter. It's like, this is just great. This kind of oblivious dude like going through this like, girl who's obviously up to something like no good. But yeah, really, I don't know why this reminded me a lot of the show Monsters. I like just all
sure, I get that.
Oh yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked it, so I thought it was really, really cool. What did everybody else think?
Yeah, I enjoyed this. I think this is a kind of concept that's been popularized, I guess, almost lately. The idea of like a fake television channel. This is, obviously WNUF comes to mind automatically.
Yeah.
Which is one that I rewatch every year. And then
that was great.
Recently there was Blippo Plus, was like a video game that was released. It was very like
cool.
In the same style, but it's like almost like a channel surfing simulator.
Oh,
And this kind of that does have kind of a plot that ties into it. And this is very similar to that. I love the idea of a fake television channel entertainment that has kind of been popping up. And this was a lot of fun. I loved the voiceovers and stuff in between. I liked the I can't remember the title of the fake sci-fi movie segment where there was the commercial for the upcoming sci-fi movie.
With the chick in the spaceship thing.
Yeah. That was super fun. It was, I wanted to see that movie actually. I was like, I want to see that. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with this, and I think the concept is so cool, and I'm glad that this is kind of a concept that does seem to be gaining popularity and being done more and more lately, because it is something that I think people of our age have so much, or people of in that millennial and older crowd have so much nostalgia almost for the age of broadcast television. That this was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, great stuff.
I have to tip my hat too for, I really love like what the fuck moments and things, and like watching this, and I guess it was the dinner with Mr. Birch segment, where it's just like this guy is sitting across the table from this like hot goth chick eating mayonnaise out of a jar that came out of the cabinet that wasn't even in the fridge. Just sitting there like, and then I love the one he's just like, we were finished with dinner. We were just like,
dinner is now complete.
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck?
That's the appropriate reaction.
So good. Yep. I also love how she immediately goes to the other room and gets naked. I was like, what the fuck? Like, this is never. I wish I could be that fucking weird, and this was the outcome.
So that has a bunch of WTF moments. It's like, oh, and then you find out, oh, she's a robot. Oh, wait, he's going to put her in the trunk of his car. What's happening? Yeah, that was just a whole bunch of WTF.
Yeah.
So the werewolf one was actually a script I had written, I think, all the way back in like 2002. It was like way old. I had written it for a friend of mine, Tom, who lived in a trailer park, and I wrote it for him and some neighbors. And so it was going to be in the trailer park, and it was going to be like the trailer park manager and different people were getting killed by this werewolf. And so it was interesting updating it to just work in a neighborhood. That Jackie Naaman Jones's character comes by to collect the rent, and it's like, well, that's weird. Why would you do that? Well, if you think about it being in a mobile home park, it would have made more sense, because they just walk around to each place and say, hey, time to get the rent. So I just left that concept as it was, even though we were shooting in a house. But it was cool to finally do that, because I had it didn't work out for a number of reasons back then, but I still had that knocking around, and so I just sort of updated it and did that. So that was a lot of fun. what was the other one you talked about? The Dark Invade. I think it was Dark Knight of Invader 12 or something like that. The fake sci-fi movie
something like that. Yeah.
A lot of that was I knew I wanted to have some sort of a fake trailer in here, and so at the end of various shoots, I usually have multiple projects going at the same time. Not always, but usually, and certainly back then I was working on a lot of things at the same time, and so I would add extra scenes. We'd like ad lib stuff after the shoot, and so a whole bunch of that. I think almost all of that footage was that. It was extra ad lib stuff that we just made up when I was shooting stuff. So like there's people in the hot tub and then there's girls making out in the hot tub. That was extra shooting at the end of some shoot. And then when the girl comes out of the bedroom, she's like, honey, are you coming? That was at the end of another shoot. So yeah, so that was kind of fun because even the stuff with the alien which was in my garage, that was all just stuff we shot at the end of something else. Like, oh yeah, put on the mask here. Just look scared, John. Walk around my garage with a flashlight, and just hodgepodge it together. I just knew like I would just like throw a bunch of unrelated scenes together, and it would be like, oh wow, I want to see that movie, right? It's like here's all the juicy bits of this fake movie, and so that was kind of fun because I just built pieces of it over time and shot little tidbits here and there, and that was fun.
It's really cool.
That is super cool. Yeah, and I know we were talking about Mr. Birch. Mr. Birch makes an appearance quite a bit throughout your movies. I was going to say maybe 4 or 5 of them that I can think of that Mr. Birch was in, which is always pretty cool. He always shows up periodically.
Yeah, but, I don't know. He just keeps popping up. I mean, he started in Odd Noggins, and then I'll tell you what happened. After Odd Noggins, Dale, who plays the character, was he's like, oh, it'd be cool to do more stuff. I'm like, yeah, well, I didn't really have any ideas, and because I'm like, well, they all just everybody leaves at the end of the movie, so what would the sequel be? So that Dinner with Mr. Birch segment was a way to kind of do that. I was like, well, we could just do some shorts, and so the Dinner with Mr. Birch that's in Channel 99, that was one script that I had written. I had also written a script called Another Dinner with Mr. Birch. I had also written a short called Mr. Birch Gets a Maid. And then I hadn't written a script, but I had a little bit of a concept for an idea for a title that Dale thought of, which was Interdimensional Bounty Hunters. And so what happened was, years later, I decided to take Another Dinner with Mr. Birch and Mr. Birch Gets a Maid and Interdimensional Bounty Hunters, and I stuck them all together. And that provided the starting of Odder Noggins, which was the sequel to Odd Noggins.
Yeah.
And so if you watch Odder Noggins, it's kind of like, oh, okay, he has a dinner with this woman. Well, that was originally a short. And then a maid comes to his house. That was originally a short. And then the bounty hunter thing was originally at least a title. And then I actually wrote the story for this movie. So Odder Noggins is those things plus some extra stuff, and then woven back and forth with a crazy spy story.
A very visually interesting spy story. Yes.
Yes, which I have to say, I've said this everywhere that whole spy story is my homage, although some people say it's a ripoff, but my homage to Deadly Weapons, which is, or not Deadly Weapons,
without a doubt. Yeah.
Double Agent 73.
Oh yeah.
The Doris Wishman movie.
Oh yeah.
Blatantly. I love that movie, and I blatantly stole parts of it to make Odder Noggins. So anyway, yeah, but it's interesting, watching Channel 99, there's that Dinner with Mr. Birch. That was actually like the first short of what could have been many, but I ended up taking basically the other 3 shorts and we turned it into a feature.
Got it. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
And I have to say, I really had a lot of fun with the Pickman's model story at the end of that.
That story's great. Yeah.
Because I created a bunch of artwork for it. I mean, that was a cool thing. That
was your art?
Yeah. So that was the thing. I was like, I need to, I need to populate this gallery show with his artwork. And, and actually at the time I painted these versions of the monster, and then I had them I think I put them on eBay with a copy of the movie after the movie was done.
That's right. I remember when you put those
like
up.
That. Yeah. And so that was kind of cool to do. But it was also just fun for me because I'm an artist. I love to paint and draw and, sculpt stuff and do all kinds of stuff. And so it was neat to and like when I'm sketching when I'm sketching the girls, all the artwork that's taped up around the garage there where I was doing the drawings of the models, those were all drawings from college, from my various classes at college. I just had them all on a portfolio
That's really cool.
upstairs. So I pulled them out and like taped them up everywhere. So like I already had that done. And then so then when I was sketching them, there's sort of a dissolve overlay of a hand drawing, and that's me, of course. So I just was like, okay, well, here's how I would draw them, and I'll just do a little overlay of it. So that was a lot of fun to work in the artwork part of that for that story, and of course have that cool monster that was fun to make too.
That monster is rad, and I will say you're pretty menacing in that one, Joe. You're
Yeah,
you're a little creepy, just a bit.
yeah, I like that was fun. That was fun. I like I like Lovecraft. I've read a little bit of Lovecraft, but it's really dense, right?
Yeah,
Very.
So I've I mean, as maybe a lot of people, my exposure to Lovecraft was Reanimator and movies like that. First was like, wow, this is weird. What is this? What's this H.P. Lovecraft guy? So I've read a lot of stuff, and I've always thought it was really cool to adapt stories. So like I did the Last Statement of Randolph Carter, or Statement of Randolph Carter in Beyond the Wall of Fear. That was fun. I did Pickman's Model in Channel 99. There's a story called Cool Ice.
Cool Ice. That's it.
It's called Cool Ice.
A cool one.
Yeah, I did that in
Cool.
What is it?
Cool Air.
Cool Air. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it. Yeah.
Yes. I did that in Dark Zone 13 Part 2.
That's a good one.
I think there's another one. Now I'm forgetting. But anyway, it's been fun to do that and just put my own spin on it. But so much of his stuff has just got this, sense of dread or just weird creepiness underneath it. And as we talked about Drifter, I kind of like that in some projects, that there's sort of this underlying like, oh man, something's weird here. This is making me uncomfortable, that kind of vibe. So anyways, but that was the Pickman's Model was fun to do. The other thing that's interesting is the story that is private. What is it called? Private. I can't remember. So one where the woman goes, the streamer goes to a hotel.
Oh yeah,
private live stream. That's what it's called. Private live stream. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So that was a girl that contacted me online who was like, hey, I'd want to be in your movies. I'm like, hey, sounds cool. And she's a couple hours north of me, and so we talked back and forth a little bit, and then I had this story idea, and my friend Dale, who plays Mr. Birch, he was working on a job in that area. To the point where he would stay in a hotel during the week. So he was staying at that hotel. And so we just arranged, I can't remember what night of the week it was, but we just arranged to meet her there at the hotel one night and just shot it all there in one night. And she was great. She was a lot of fun. And I thought it turned out really well. And then she has just been impossible to schedule with since.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, that's the only thing I've done with her. I keep inviting her to be part of projects, but she just never has any time. But I thought she was great, and it was fun. So
that is a fun segment. I was going to say I don't think I've seen her in any of your other movies, which is uncommon because it seems like you have like a core group of people that you definitely enjoy making films with, and it feels like a family almost. I love it. It's really cool.
I'm very lucky to have good friends. I mean, all of this started with friends and friends of friends, and then it just sort of expanded to more friends and friends of friends. And then eventually what started happening was I would show stuff either at like a convention or I did a bunch of screenings in the area around here. There's a couple like theater pub type of places. And so people would meet me at those screenings, and say, wow, this is really cool, man. I'd love to help on something. And I ended up making like a little link on my website that just linked to like a Google survey so I could capture everybody's information, And so that's worked out great because I'll meet people and be like, oh, here, you go to my website, click on this want to be in a movie button. It just takes you right to this thing and you can tell me who you are and how to get a hold of you and stuff. And so there've been several people that have worked out through that. But yeah, it's been great. I've been very, very lucky over the years. And usually I do work with people over and over again because we all do have a good time. If someone isn't in a movie anymore, it's most likely either A, they're difficult to schedule with, which is her case, or they moved. I mean, you can look. I've looked back on my sort of filmography over the years and realized there's kind of phases. You know, there's this group of people, and then they moved, and they moved. You know, and it's like, oh yeah, well, okay, clearly there's sort of a division there, or there's an infusion of new people because of a particular project. I remember in 2009, I think it was, I shot Platoon of the Dead for John Bowker, and specifically for that, he wanted to get a bunch of younger people in the movie, and so he actually put an ad in the local university paper and did auditions, and out of that, a handful of new people got involved and were a lot of fun and great, and so they ended up populating my movies for years after that, until most of them moved, to be honest. And then now there's been the last several years, there's been a few people that one of them I met at a little kind of spooky market vendor fair. The other one, Kate, Kate Schmidt, she and her boyfriend saw a movie on Tubi. I think it was Things 5. And they just thought it was a hoot, and then looked me up, found me on Instagram, found my website, and filled out my survey. And then I've put her in every movie I've made since. She's so great. And that just blows my mind. It's like, here's this person that I probably never would have met otherwise. And because she saw this schlocky monster movie I made on Tubi, I now have met her, and she's so phenomenal. And like I said, I've put her in every movie since. So it's a wild world.
I was going to say, I think I had posted a review a couple weeks ago about one of your newer movies, Painted Eyes with a
Yeah,
clown.
Dead Eyes Behind a Painted Smile.
Smile. That's it.
That's a very shallow title.
Very
title. It is.
really is.
Yes, it
Damn.
is. Yeah.
But I saw that Kate was the lead again, and I'm like, you know what? I think she's kind of become the muse for Joe Sherlock in his movies recently. Yeah, she's wonderful though in all the roles. So I'm never going to complain.
She's been great.
Just the last couple of years it seems like she's been in the films. But
yeah, I mean, it was only. I'm trying to
great
think.
job.
I mean, let's see, what year is it? It's 2026. So I think, was it 2024? I met her. So there was a year that I made A Knife in the Dark, which was really a work for hire. Like someone else wrote that script, and it was a different experience because someone else had written the script, and I did kind of a light rewrite over it to kind of combine some characters and kind of reduce the cast a little bit, to be honest. And the producer, there were two producers on it, and the one that I'd worked with, one that was a new guy, and he basically was like, look, I don't want any nudity in this, and I don't want a ton of gore, and which was a challenge for me, just because it wasn't something. It wasn't a challenge, but it just was different for me. But I was game. I'm like, yeah, I could do that, So it was interesting. A lot of people had a negative reaction, like, oh, I watched this movie. This doesn't even feel like his movie. It's like, well, I had these guardrails on, and I didn't actually, come up with it. So in a way, it wasn't as much my movie as others. Although I think I put enough of my stamp on it that it still feels a bit like my movie. But my point being that that summer is when Kate had contacted me. So we actually shot scenes for Weird House 2 with her first, then made that. So it's only been a few years that I had since that happened. So it's been recent. But yeah, she's great. And it's funny you use the word muse, because the Haunting of Heather Black movie that I made was a concept that I had for years, just kind of a vague concept. And again, it's interesting because a lot of my movies come together for one or two or three reasons, all sort of colliding at the same time. And in this case, it was my friend John was telling me that I could shoot at his house anytime. And I was sitting up there one time with him and realizing how surrounded by trees his house is. It's just on a regular suburban street. But I thought, if I frame this right, you could pretend this house is anywhere, like out in the middle of the woods. Because as long as I crop it such so you don't see the neighbors, whenever we're inside the house, you look out the windows, there's nothing but trees. He's got big trees in his front yard. So that was one thing, just knowing, I could do a whole movie here. So then, of course, my brain started working on, what can I shoot where I could use every room in John's house? And then I also had this idea of a writer going to the coast and getting away from things and blah, 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 blah. And anyway, but then that late that summer, Dave Sterling asked me. I had done some movies for him, and I was working on shooting an anthology that John Bowker had written and directed. And Dave asked me, he said, "Hey, do you think what are the chances you could make something for me before the end of the year? You think you'd squeeze in a movie for me?" And I said, "Oh man, John's like I'm committed to John's movie for the rest of the year into next year." I
Yeah.
said, "But I do have this ghost idea, maybe it's kind of simple, so maybe I could pull that off." And he said, "Well, send me a treatment." So I did. I didn't have a script written, but I wrote up the treatment and with Kate in mind. And so that's where it goes with the muse thing. And
Yeah.
and so then he read the treatment. He's like, "Yeah, let's do it. Let's do this movie." And so literally, like, I contacted her first to find out what her available weekends were before I had this script written. So I contacted her and found out when she was available and wrote it. I wrote the bulk of the movie, but there's several big flashbacks in it. I wrote the movie without the flashbacks written out. It just had a placeholder. And so we shot that whole bunch of the movie without any of us knowing exactly what the flashbacks were going to be. And subsequently, several weeks later, we'd shoot one and then we'd shoot the other and shoot the other. And it was a weird way to make a movie, but it was great. But it really was her what I knew I could get out of her as a performance that informed me as I was writing it. So she really was a muse on that, because I would imagine, she could handle this type of emotional scene. I'll write this up, because not everybody can. I have really talented friends, but not everybody can do everything.
Exactly.
Anyway, sorry, long tangent.
That's fine. That's good.
That has been the case.
Yeah, you're good, Joe. And I really like The Haunting of Heather Black. That one is great. And it's funny to think about the flashbacks not being already scripted out, because the movie kind of lives or dies based on those flashbacks, right? By the time you
I knew what they needed to be. I knew what they needed to serve plot wise, but I didn't have them written. I didn't have the specifics of what they were going to be written out when we shot that first long weekend.
And you mentioned Kate being in Strange House too, or Weird House rather.
Yeah.
It's funny. Just a couple weeks ago, I sent Jeff and Jeremy a video. I was watching the newest Strange Things Happen in the Weird House movie, where Joe Vogley is having a conversation with somebody in the kitchen. I can't remember who it is he's talking to, but there's actions happening behind them involving American
Yes.
Yes. Jeff and Jeremy, and I'm like, I love Joe's movies. I watch them for the plot.
Yeah.
Because I'm
Here's
just,
the plot.
Laughing, watching it, because it's just so absurd and amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, that was exactly the point. The best part of that was adding in the slaps, because I enhanced the slapping noises when the cheese would hit, and it was just hilarious to drop that in and then play it back. And I love how that turned out.
I love those movies. The Strange Things Happen at the Weird House films. They are very, very, very odd movies. Jeff, you were saying you love a good "what the fuck" moment. Those movies, with them, you would really like all three of those. But yeah,
they are.
Well, it's good.
Yeah,
it's cool we kind of got on this subject, because while I definitely did want to talk about those movies, I now that something that I think we've mentioned a few times on the podcast, George is a big producer, has produced a lot of stuff. Jeremy and I have made we have a short film that we've gotten actually made, and then we've got several that we've been working on and trying to get made for a while. So we're filmmakers too, and something I know that I'm sure Jeremy's got some questions, but we definitely wanted to kind of pick your brain a little on like just the process of doing what you do as an indie director, and like kind of how that works out for you. So, Jeremy, I remember earlier in the episode you mentioned it. Did you have some questions for Joe?
Yeah, I guess just one general question I think is always interesting in this particular business is just since in recent times I feel like equipment and just filmmaking in general has become so much cheaper than when you hear about stories in the 80s. So just from your experience of starting this in 1995, how has the ease of indie filmmaking progressed in terms of how obtainable and easy it is to both to produce a film and then distribute that film as well? And how does that look like financially? Because I know there's a lot of people who say, you can make a movie very easily now, but stuff like Tubi pays nothing. So how does that line up for you as an independent filmmaker, and how has that changed over the years?
Yeah, it's funny because and I've talked about this before, that like Fred Olen Ray is a big inspiration to me too. I think he made a lot of really cool creative movies, genre stuff, sci-fi stuff, sex comedies, B movies, but also has made everything. He's made westerns and family dramas, and lately the last like 10 years he's been making Christmas movies. And but the genre stuff is what first got me interested. And I've been lucky enough. He back in the early 2000s, he had a bulletin board that many people were a part of, and it was an amazing little stretch of a few years because Fred ran. It was the Retro Media boards, and Fred ran them. And so like Fred was on there, and Jim Wynorski was on there, and Dave Dakota was on there. People that were like in the industry, as we say, right? Who were, who had made stuff, who had shot stuff on film, who had things distributed. And then there were like a whole bunch of us backyard filmmakers, literally making stuff in our backyards or our houses or garages or basements or whatever. And it was great because we could all like interact, and it was like we're all on the same level because we're all just someone posting in a forum, and so I remember it was sort of like this question was sort of like kind of a film versus video. There were guys that were like, oh yeah, everybody just shoots on these video cameras now. And it's like, you don't know what it's like to cut on film. You don't know what it's like to have to spend, $70,000 at, this house to a production house to, get your dailies and this and that other thing. And I mean, they weren't wrong. It's like, yeah, you know what? I missed all of that. I shot on Super 8 film on my dad's little Super 8 camera, that just little, home video camera. But that was it. I never shot anything on any movies on film. I never had to cut film. I started shooting on VHS and then moved to high 8 millimeter, and then DV. And then, now I'm shooting on cards. And it's interesting. I guess what I'm trying to, in a roundabout way, I'm saying there's always that argument. If it's not really an argument, but it has always been that like, oh, well, it used to be a lot harder. Now it's easier. And so there's so much crap being made. Right. So, all right. But to answer your question, yeah, I mean, I started shooting on VHS, and I started making shorts. Literally, I had 2 VCRs hooked together. And so, I'm using the play and record and pause button to edit a movie, right? Tape to tape. So that's how I started. The first few movies I did, actually, my dad had at that point he had retired and had a business consulting business, and he was making videos, and he had a 3/4 inch tape editing deck that he had bought from, I think, a TV station or something. And so my first few movies I shot on VHS, but then they were edited on this 3/4 inch system, which after a couple of movies he ended up giving me because he really wasn't using it anymore. So he's like, why don't you just take this home? So the first bunch of movies I did were actually cut or edited tape to tape on these bigger format tapes. And then I started editing an iMovie on my Mac. And then eventually I bought Final Cut Pro, which I use to this day, and I really like. So yeah, it's been great for me because, yeah, it used to be, you're shooting on tape and you got to copy it to make a copy, then a copy. Moving up to like even shooting on like DV, digital signal to a tape, you had to literally sit there while the tape physically played for an hour to import your footage, and then you could start cutting. And today, where I can literally shoot something and just pop the card in and boom, there's all my footage. I can just start throwing it around very easily, is great. So that stuff got easier. The thing I always say is that the production is pretty much the same, though. You still have to have your script and your story and your shooting schedule, and you still have to find locations. I mean, I guess unless you're doing a lot of green screen stuff, but I mean, I still have to find houses and restaurants and alleys and whatever else I want to shoot in. And you still got to find people, and then you have to deal with people. You got to deal with people and their schedules and their talent, where their talents are and their availability and what they're willing to do and what they don't want to do and who they mesh well with and who they have issues with. All of that is the same, whether you're shooting on, whether you're shooting on an IMAX camera or whether you're shooting on your phone. all that's the same, right? And you guys having worked on a short film, it kind of is the same. It's like, well, I still have to have a story and a script and people and this and that and the other thing, regardless of whether it's easy to shoot on the device you have or whether it's hard to shoot. So the shooting and the editing has all gotten a lot easier, and the technology has helped immensely. But really, there's a lot, and you still have to, depending on how big your shoot is, you still have to feed those people, right? You still have to have, water, and you still have to, in general, get some props, build some props or buy some props or mix up some blood or whatever it is you need. So all that stuff sort of has remained the same. If I was making a movie in 1953, I'd still have to do all that. I'd have to make a monster, mix up the blood, blah, 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 coordinate everybody's schedule, find a location. And then I'd also have to have, a massive crew and a big camera and all this stuff. So that's the thing that I've seen, is that it's all the same sort of planning and physical stuff you need to do, really. But the technology has made the production and then the editing, post-production, way, way, way easier. As far as distribution, I have always just, I can't say that I'm the norm. I've self-distributed from the get-go, selling tapes, myself, through Draculina magazine. And then I did some movies for Sub Rosa Cinema, SRS Cinema. That was great because they got out all over the place. I've worked on stuff for Tempe Video. I for the big stretch of years, I've been making stuff for Sterling Entertainment. I've also been making stuff for myself and just still self-distributing it. And yeah, I am a person that I think is still really a small fish in a big pond. And so I've never really made a lot of money, and I've never counted on that because I always had a day gig. I was always, I'm technically I'm retired now. I worked for 30 years at a job and took early retirement, and then have basically doing freelance. So like I do freelance graphic design and stuff for people now, but I have more time now to do the filming stuff. But I had the filming stuff was always a sideline. It was always a hobby, essentially. And so I never relied on it for, money. I never had to, make sure I made a bunch of money or made a profit on movie X, because I kind of didn't have that expectation to begin with, but also it turned out I didn't, you know what I mean? So to me, making movies the last bunch of years, if I could put it out myself, or, Sterling was going to put it out on a Blu-ray, and, if I could put it up and somebody like Tubi or Amazon picks it up from some service, that's great, because I hear from someone from Turkey or the Philippines that are like, oh, I loved this movie. And to me, that's like awesome. Love hearing that stuff, to know that people are seeing it and getting enjoyment out of it. I mean, literally the other day, an EMT from New York wrote to me, and to just say, me and my buddy, we work as EMTs in New York, and it's really stressful. And so I just want to tell you, your movies, bring us a lot of levity. And then he asked about Weird House 3, but it's like, just hearing that is super cool, right? That's enough for me. I don't have to make money from these movies to make a living, I guess is what I'm saying. And so, yeah, and I agree. Even in the time that I've been in this, it's splintered so much. There's a whole bunch of ways to get your movie out there. And if any of them pay, it is just minuscule, literally thousands of a penny. And so I'm happy to be out on platforms, because then people can see it, but I certainly have no illusions that I'm going to make much on them. To be honest, most of the money making movies these days has either been David Sterling giving me some money saying, here, make a movie for me, or just coming out of my pocket. Or sometimes, like with George, I would do a thing like, hey, you guys, if you want to chip in $100, I'll give you a credit and give you this thing and a drawing and whatever else to raise, a little bit of money for it. That's just kind of how I've operated, and it's worked fine for me. The one difference was I worked on a movie called Monos Returns, sequel to Monos: The Hands of Fate. I was one of 4 producers, and I was the DP for it. And we ran a Kickstarter campaign, and I did the artwork for it, but there was someone else that actually ran it, and they raised $26,000. Now, the thing to think about is, Monos is sort of a cult, infamous film, but also there's the whole Mystery Science Theater 3000 connection for that. And so that really, visibility, I think, helped that project a lot. But yeah, that was great. I mean, we had great food, and they flew several people in for the shoot. That was a nice shoot. But anyway, but yeah, usually I'm making it because it's fun, and I like it, and I'm addicted to it, so I can't really stop. I don't know if that's a long answer to your short question.
No, it doesn't make sense. I mean, Jeff and I, when we were working on our short film, we saw the people thing, especially when you're not paying people, which we don't have the money to pay people. You can't make extreme demands of their time. So, we had, we're going to shoot this day. And then it's like, well, our lead actress, who is a great person, and obviously she has to live her life still, was like, well, I have to stop at
Yeah.
this time and go feed my cat and then come back. And it's like, well, okay, well, we have to work around that. It's not really a choice. You have to do what you have to do.
Yeah.
So all those things come up, and that is really where the challenge for us is lied too. And just in people cancel
Yeah.
at the last minute, they get sick, they can't do things. It's
Yeah.
just, that is life. So
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
because
I've
we
had-
literally. Oh, sorry, Joe. I was just gonna say we literally had our actress that I wrote the role for backed out like the day or 2 days before we were shooting, and I had to cast an entirely different person as the main actress. So that was crazy. And then the guy who was going to play the killer got COVID the morning of our shoot,
Oh man.
so we had to grab somebody else for that. So yeah, it was. And then that's definitely last minute when you're calling your friends and going, "Hey, you got like free 10 hours today?"
Yes.
So it's,
Well, let me tell you, I have been there. It's funny you mentioned COVID because I remember there was a period where you would just get sent a picture of a positive test. Like they didn't
Right.
even have to say anything, right? It was like,
Mhm.
oh no, okay, we got this picture. Clearly, they're not going to make it. But I was going to say there are two things come to mind. One was I was working on a movie for John, and there was a girl that would play this part, and she had a final, like on the afternoon of it. We were doing like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday shoot, and she had to leave to go take this final, and John didn't really think about it much, but he like blocked out an hour in the shooting schedule. Well, first of all, she was like, we were about a half hour out of town. So she had to drive back to town to go to campus to take her final, which was 2 hours long.
Right.
So, and then come back. So that threw his schedule up, but we just like laid around the house. We watched a short movie, and then I think we pretty much took a nap because it was kind of hot out. But yeah, we just like everything stopped. And I was like, okay, yep, Amanda's gonna go take her final. And then like 3 hours later, she showed back up and we just kicked it right back up again, But I also had a situation where, and this was on Weird House 2, someone couldn't show up that day. Like I didn't find out till that morning they weren't showing up. And it was one of these things where I had this scene, it was the card game scene written where there's only 6 people in the scene, but it was all very specifically written with a lot of jokes back and forth, a lot of one-liner jokes that like I couldn't really easily pull one character out of it because that would like make half the jokes not work because they all sort of built on each other. And luckily, one of the women there was like, well, I have a friend who lives in town and she might want to do it. And I said, well, yeah, let's call her. And so, yeah, literally with an hour's notice, she showed up and stepped into the role and was fantastic and was a lot of fun and worked out. But that doesn't always happen. But that worked out great.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure
we've had to
that's not
cancel
usually
shoots
the case.
because Yeah, we had to cancel a shoot last time we were supposed to because just stuff didn't line up. Shit happened.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I've had to
just
cancel
couldn't find
shoots
anybody.
before too. Yeah.
It's when you can't pay people, like I said, you really can't. You can't make demands when you don't have the money to pay them.
Not really.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started, I really wasn't paying anybody. Everybody's just working for food and a copy of the movie. And the nice thing is, in recent years, I've been able to. I for years I've just called it gas money. It's like, oh, I'm just going to give you some gas money, just sort of a token payment. But now gas is so expensive that's like I can't really even call it gas money sometimes because it's like, oh well, this is But like on a bunch of the recent movies, like Heather Black and Weird House. I mean, I've got kind of like. I figured out kind of daily payments that I'll pay people. And the nice thing for me is that a lot of these people are like, you don't have to pay me. I'm like, well, I'm just, everybody gets this. I'm just trying to be, equal to everyone. And you guys are helping me. And I just want to help you out. And so sometimes they literally won't take it. I'm like, well, just gas. You had to come down from here. They're like, I have a great time. You're not going to pay me for this. So, it is what it is, but it's very nice. But there are other people that they need the money, and they did have to drive down the freeway or whatever it was, and I'm happy if I can on some of these projects be like, here's a little envelope of cash. Thanks for doing all this stuff,
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of times you can't. A lot of times you're just like, hey, we're all going to get together and do this for fun. I probably did that for 20 years, and I've always said honesty is the best policy. If you're upfront with people about that, then it's fine. They know what they're getting into, and so do you. Okay, yeah, they're going to have a scheduling conflict, and that's just the way it is, and I have to be flexible. it's the same thing with like nudity or something like that. It's like, as long as you're up front, like this is what's involved in it. And they're like, yeah, I'm fine with that. Or they're like, well, I don't do that. It's like, okay, sometimes I can alter a part because it's not critical to it, or it's not something I'm like, oh my God, no, I've always envisioned it this way. It has to be this way. It's just as long as we're up front with each other, then it all works out fine.
Yeah.
I mean, Kate's not one to do nudity, which is fine. So she has parts that don't have nudity. And if I want nudity in the project, someone else does it, and it's fine. It's not because we're all up front with each other. It's not like I have a thing all, planned out and she's like, oh no, I won't do that. It's like, I know what the deal is from the get go.
Yeah.
That makes
we actually had a situation that came up in our short film and maybe just made me think about that, where we envisioned the shower scene, and when we envisioned it, we were going to have this kind of opaque shower curtain so you could see the outline of the actress and everything, but you wouldn't be able to tell whether she was dressed or not. And so we thought, okay, this will be great because she doesn't have to get naked if she doesn't want to. She can be in there in a bathing suit or whatever, and it'll be fine. So, of course, we get to the moment of shooting, and we're looking in there, and you can see her bathing suit. You can just see that she was in a bathing suit. And we were like, we're just not going to be able to do this. And so, I'm like, oh, God, I'm going to have to talk to her about, will she do this, with that? Which, I mean, still, you couldn't really see. The shower curtain obscured enough. And luckily, she's like, oh, yeah, it's not a problem. And so she just did it. And I was like, man, we dodged a bullet there, as I thought that was going to be a moment where I'm like, oh, we're going to have to cut this scene out of the movie, and I don't think it'll work without that scene. So, yeah, luckily we managed to negotiate it, and when we were definitely only paying like food. That's all we were doing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I've had that too, to be honest. I'm trusting. There's two instances where I had the outside the shower kind of door thing, and then, but knowing that then we'll open the door and I'll shoot, like cropping out their bathing suit top, right? And in both cases they were fine with doing the no suit shot through the door because they knew it was one of those doors, and they were fine with it. But but I totally understand. Like I said, it's you ask and you just honor whatever they say. So and if you don't know ahead of time, you just say on set, are you comfortable with this? I mean, it's funny because the thing I mentioned earlier where someone filled in literally like last minute, like with an hour's notice. I mean, there was a bunch of nudity with that part, and I figured I may have to jettison that, and I'd be okay with it because there were so many people coordinated for that shoot that came from, like, one woman came from like 2 hours, 2 hours away. And someone else came from like an hour the other direction. I just didn't want to cancel the shoot if I didn't have to. And so, they showed up, and so I kind of went over the scenes. I'm like, now these are the storyboards I drew for this next sequence, and it was clearly like they didn't have a top on. And I'm like, is this something you're comfortable with? And they're like, well, okay. And then later it was funny because I did like a little cast interview section, and they were describing it like, they showed me the storyboard, and I was wearing a lot less clothes than I was then, but I thought, what the hell? I'm having fun. I'll do it. Right. So, you never know.
Well, I asked a really long question, so we've now crossed over the 2-hour mark. So anybody else have any questions?
No, I think we could probably just get normally at the end of our episodes we do like a recommendations based on the episode, but we thought we would do something a little different this time, and instead of it was everybody's heard from us a million times about things that we recommend, so we thought, Joe, if you would, for our audience, recommend a few of your movies that you're especially proud of that you'd like people to go and check out.
Oh, all right. Well, I do like Drifter. And I know that's on Tubi and it's on Amazon. So I mean, if people have those, they could check it out for free. And it's probably on other stuff. Fossum is another channel that I know. I mean, there's a lot of commercials on Fossum, but I know there's some titles out there. Drifter's a good. I like Beyond the Wall of Fear is another one, and that's an anthology. I do really like how that turned out as well. And then The Haunting of Heather Black, I'm really happy with as well. And it's different. It's probably closer to Drifter in vibe because it's more of like a creepy, like something's odd here, something's off here type of vibe. But I really like those. So, my website is skullfaceastronaut.com. And if you go there, the main page just has a whole bunch of movie covers. And so you can click on anything and it'll tell you a little bit about the movie and usually where to get it if it's available. But I'd say Drifter and Beyond the Wall of Fear I really like. The Haunting of Heather Black I really like. I think those are good. The movie referenced earlier, Dead Eyes Behind a Painted Smile.
Mhm.
I've got it up on Vimeo on demand right now, which is they're shutting down, unfortunately, like in
Oh,
a few weeks. So unfortunately, that's all going to go away. But I'm working on getting a deal for that to come out on Blu-ray. So it's just a bit of a waiting game right now, but hopefully that'll be out before too long. But I like, not many people have seen it, but I really like how that turned out too.
I like that one quite a bit. I thought it was really good. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'll have to keep an eye out for that one. I think everyone here, I think, on the podcast is pretty big physical media collectors. So when that gets
Oh,
a
yeah.
Blu-ray release,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
we're keeping an eye out for it.
Yeah, and I, there's a commentary and there's a bunch of behind the scenes stuff. So that's the I like physical media too, and I love all the extras. So I'm always trying to, if I can, put extras on those releases.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Really cool.
Yeah,
Perfect. Well, Joe, we greatly appreciate you being on the episode this week. It has been fantastic having you here. It's been great talking Nightmare on Elm Street with you, talking your films,
Yeah.
and kind of the creative process. I hope people really enjoyed this episode. I know all three of us did. So thank you again, Joe. We really appreciate it, man.
yeah. It was a blast, man. I appreciate you having me on. This was a lot of fun, and I appreciate you watching the movies ahead of time. That was great.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and I know you mentioned your website. Is there any other shout out you want to give, like to your social media or anything before you go?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of stuff linked from that skullfaceastronaut.com site.
Okay.
I mean, I'm on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and Threads and Blue Sky. I'm on a bunch of stuff. Usually it's either Joe Sherlock or it's Skullface Astronaut, and you'll be able to tell because it'll be a bunch of my movie stuff. But yeah, I know I have a lot of it linked from. I think all of that's linked from Facebook and it's linked from my website. So yeah,
Awesome.
hit me up. Like I said, if people want to have questions about the movies, I'm always up to entertain those. So if people want to watch stuff and want to ask me about it, feel free.
Really, really cool.
Perfect.
And so you can check out Joe at skullfaceastronaut.com and various social medias as Joe Sherlock or Skullface Astronaut. You can find us we're at the Scream Signal Network on Facebook. I am Jeff at Scream Signal on Instagram. I believe George is George at Scream Signal, and Jeremy is at Jeremy Scream Signal. So you can get a hold of us in any of those places, and we hope you guys keep tuning in, and let us know what you thought about the episode. If you want to have Joe back on sometime, if you want specific movies of his you want to talk about, just give us a shout out.
Wait.
Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you listening.
Yeah, everybody, have a good night. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.